In section 4.2, number 45, we're going to sketch y equals 3 tangent of 2 pi t on the interval of -1/2 to 1/2. We're going to start by noticing that, let's see, a equals 3 and our b is 2 pi. And the fact that b is 2 pi tells us the period. The period is the period of tangent, the parent function, over the absolute value of b, which is 2 pi. And that simplifies to 1/2 as the pi's will cancel. All right, so then that gives me my reference rectangle. So let's see. I'm going to split that into 4. Into fourths, and I know that my tangent function, the parent function goes through a -1 here and a +1, and it has the 0 in the middle, and then it goes on for infinity against the asymptotes, and it kind of looks like this little S. That's the general shape of my tangent function, and my reference rectangle that is split into fourths there. And I'm going to use that period to split that into fourths. So the reference rectangle is 2a by 1 period. So it's 2a high. This is 2a right here. And in fact, instead of going through 1 at this max, we go through 3. And this is going to go through -3. So that's 2a, so that's 6 units high. And then the period is 1/2. So half of that is going to go to the right. So that's actually 1/4 to the right, centered at 0, and 1/4 to the left. So the whole period is a total of 1/2 unit. 1/2 radians, and it looks like I'm ready to actually put on the plot now. I got my idea of what it's going to look like from my reference rectangle here. So let's go ahead and make that grid. So according to this reference rectangle that we made, the asymptotes, I will do, I don't know, let's do them in orange. The asymptotes are going to be at that's a negative. -1/4 and 1/4. So that's t equals -1/4 and t equals +1/4. And our zeros that's where it crosses the y-axis. So that's there at the middle of 2a. So that's at the origin. We might have a few more because we have to go all the way back to 1/2. And let's see, what else do we need to graph this? In the period, which we found is 1/2 already. Okay, so let's graph this. Okay, so we got our asymptotes in orange at -1/4. Oh, we got to label our axis, huh? That, like I said before, is sometimes the hardest part. So let's look at our interval. It's going to be from -1/2 to 1/2. But I want to make it so that I can count by 4s easily, because that way I can get to the 1/4. This is going to be 1/8, -1/8, and +1/8. So I want that to be easy to find. So half of half gives me the 1/4, and half of -1/2 gives me the -1/4. And between there I have 1/8, -1/8. Let's see, 3/8. And -3/8. So I'm also going to have zeros. I'm going to have two intervals here. Two periods here. So we have the asymptotes at -1/4 right here. And +1/4. But that actually is going to be repeating. So again, at, maybe not on this graph though. No, so that's all the asymptotes within this interval. But we will have two zeros. So now looking at the zeros, I know that there's one halfway between these two asymptotes. So every 2/4. So and then there'll be another one here then, and another one here. So 2 tick marks, 2/4 away from that green, the asymptote. All right, so now my graph is going to go from, let's do this part in purple. So this 3, the A, tells us instead of the halfway point between the asymptote and the 0, it's usually 1 for the parent function of tangent, but in this case we have 3 times tangent, so instead of 1 it's going to be 3. So, oops, but a positive, sorry, on the positive side. And then on the negative side it would be -3, 1, 2, 3. So let's go ahead and label the axis 2, so that's clear. That's 1, 2, 3, -1, 2, 3. And then my asymptotes, of course, go on forever in this direction, so I'm going kind of like this S shape. Oh, I'm never going to go to this part. So down through that curve. No, that's not quite right. I think it's easier if I start at the 0 and do that curve. Yeah, that's better. And then do that curve. Getting a little picky. Sorry. All right, I'm not so good at these tan curves. All right, so there's my tangent curve. That's the 1 period, but I want to go actually extend it to a half a period to the right and half a period to the left. So I'm also going to have an asymptote here that goes through -3 halfway between the 0 and the asymptote, and a +3 halfway between this one on the left. And then my curve is going to go through the 0 and go down forever. Whoops. And then stop there. And on this one I go up forever. Whoops, too sharp. There. Okay, that's pretty much it, except I'm getting bothered by the shape of this, so I'm going to just kind of, that's a little better. There we go, that looks nice. Okay, so there's my tangent of 3 times tangent times of 2 pi t on the interval of -1/2 to 1/2. We have one more thing to answer in this. So we listed our asymptotes, but we only got that center 0. After I extended the graph, I saw there was another 0 at 1/2 and -1/2 every period. And that is my final graph.